Okay, so we're going to work on identifying corresponding parts in triangles, and we're going to have a little bit of overlap here, or we're going to have an overlap happening. So figure ABCD is a rectangle with diagonals AC and BD. So here's our rectangle ABCD. By the way, they did tell us it's a rectangle, so there are some properties of rectangles we can apply. And they did tell us that the diagonals are AC and BD. Why is it important to identify corresponding parts of overlapping triangles? So let's take a look at these overlapping triangles. It is helpful to use different colors. So I'm going to identify one triangle in blue. I'm going to use that diagonal AC. So here's AC. And I'm going to use, we were told something about side AB because it has a congruency mark. And I can see that I am forming triangle ABC. Okay, so I'm going to switch colors, and my other triangle has diagonal BD right here. We can see that DC is marked congruent, so we're going to focus on that. And then here's the part where your two colors are helpful. To finish out this triangle, I can see that this bottom segment right there, I just outlined side BC in both triangles. So there's the overlap. Drawing them separately or outlining them separately, I think just makes it, you can see it more clearly. It helps you to ignore parts of the picture. You know, like we're not going to talk about side AD at all because we're focusing on these triangles that I just outlined. So that triangle we just outlined is triangle DCB. Okay, so after you have highlighted them in different colors, another helpful approach is to pull them apart and draw separately. So what that would look like is if I want to draw triangle ABC, I'm going to use the same color I used before. Here is triangle ABC. ABC. We have a right angle at B and we have a congruency mark on AB. And then triangle DCB, if I kind of pull that apart, is going to look like this with a, DCB with a right angle and a congruency mark. So you can kind of see if this were to shift back over to the right, angle B or vertex B and vertex B would both be right here. Vertex C and vertex C would be lined up. So those are our two triangles. This is going to make it easier for us to identify corresponding parts. So there are 6 sets of corresponding parts. Why don't we start with the angles? Oh, even before we do that, hey, do we have congruent triangles? We have a side congruent to a side over here. We have a 90-degree angle or a right angle and a right angle. We know from our right angle theorem, two right angles will be congruent, so we have congruent angles. And then when we have this overlap, here's where I think it's really obvious is this red segment is part of my red triangle and the blue segment is part of the blue triangle, but it's the same segment. So BC is going to be congruent to BC. There we go. All right, so our congruent angles, we're going to have angle ABC. That's right here at angle B. And I don't want to say angle, just angle B, because if I look at this triangle, angle B is not the same as this angle B. So I want to use my 3 letters to identify. Angle ABC is congruent to, that's this right angle over here. So angle DCB. Did I already say these triangles are congruent? How do we know that they're congruent? They're congruent by our side angle side congruence theorem. So because our triangles are congruent by side angle side, that means all the corresponding parts are congruent by CP/CTC. I think I started to say that and then I got distracted. So there we go. All right, so now this angle A is going to be congruent to this angle D. And because it's coming from the picture above, let's be really specific with our angles. We're going to say angle BAC, there's my angle A at the vertex, is congruent to angle CDB. So BAC is this angle right here, is congruent to CDB, this angle right here. So maybe we can even mark those congruencies. Those angles are congruent because they are corresponding parts. And then our last angle is here at C. I'm going to say angle ACB, vertex is C, is congruent to its corresponding part over here is angle B, but we're going to use our three vertices, angle D, B, C. Okay, there are our congruent angles. How about, do we have any congruent sides? Well, we were given a congruent side that AB is congruent to DC. We also marked a congruency on our own that BC is congruent to BC. That's that reflexive property. And then our last side, AC, will be congruent to DB. This side is congruent to this side. Oh, and I forgot to mark my angles congruent there. All right. Oh, well, that just felt like it took too long. There are corresponding parts. When you have overlapping triangles, use multiple colors to help focus in on your triangles. You can pull them apart and redraw them separately, and then that makes it much easier to come up with, our list of corresponding parts, etc.